Hello, I'm Christine from Create 98. Welcome to a special version of Doorstep Flower School, just privately for you guys this Saturday afternoon. A video to show you how to arrange these beautiful flowers we've got. Now, my colleague Stephen, he will explain to you all about the flowers, how to condition them, and then how to make an amazing hand-tie arrangement in these fish bowls. So I hope you have a really lovely afternoon, happy birthday, and have a great time.
Hello all of you, thank you so much for choosing Create 98 to help you with your celebration today. I hope you're enjoying the sunshine that we've been blessed with. I'm going to show you how to make a simple hand-tie bouquet and arrange it in a provided fish bowl vase for you all. First things first, I'm going to talk you through what you've got in your wraps, what flower varieties you have, and how to condition them, and then we're going to start making our hand tie. Before we get on with that, just to make sure you get your bowl ready so it's nice and clean, ready to arrange in, and you've got it full of nice fresh clean water. I fill mine about half full, so to make sure all the stems have a good drink when they get placed into the vase. So I'm going to move that to one side. Now I'm going to move on to our flowers. So starting off, we've got this beautiful spray rose, which is called Leanne, and I'm just going to pick those leaves off, and they've got a lot of thorns on them, so there's a couple of different ways for you to condition these. I personally like to pick all those thorns off individually, as long as you're not conditioning too many. It's nice and simple and easy, and it's quite therapeutic really. Alternatively, you can use, if you've got a sharp pair of scissors or a gardening knife, you could take the knife down the side of the stem like so and scrape those thorns off. Be a bit careful if you're using that technique, because sometimes that does can damage the flesh of the stem of the flower. So be a bit careful with that. So that's conditioned. So we've got 3 of these. As a general rule, when we do our hand tie bouquets, or most arrangements really, we tend to work in odd numbers. So 3s, 5s, 7s always look nice and give you a nice even display throughout. And you can see here on my stem, you might get this, because it's a multiple flower head, you might get the odd stem without a head on it. So I'm just going to snip that off just to neaten it up. I'm not going to take too much leaf off, because there's a nice strong foliage on the rose, and we're going to use that to help support our stems in our bouquet. So I'll just strip those lower leaves off, ready to go. So that's them done. Next we've got this beautiful daisy, or September, or aster, you might know it as. I'm just going to strip those lower buds off, and you might want to save these up. You can put them in a little jam jar or milk bottle or little bud vase you might have to repurpose these bits and pieces on the bottom. So just strip those off so you get a nice clean stem. I'll take another one off, just using my vase as a gauge there as to where I want the flowers to be positioned and how high they're going to sit in the vase. So when we do conditioning like this and stripping these flower stems, really the idea is when you tie the bouquet, you don't want anything below your binding point, which is the point where you fasten your bouquet with string, or we're using binding wire today. And also you want to make sure that no flower or foliage goes into your water, in your vase or container that you're using, because that will encourage bacteria to develop in the vase and it will shorten the lifespan of your flowers. I'm just going to strip those off again, and then that's the daisy all done, or as I say, you might know as September or aster. This variety is called Monte Cassino. It's a really pretty single little daisy, nice and wild looking. So that's ready to go. Next we have our Alchemilla mollis, a really great summer foliage, a nice punch of lime green there, which is going to really make those hot pinks pop. Not much condition on here at all. I'm just going to take that lower leaf off on this stem. Again, nothing to condition there. You've got 5 of these. So take that lower stem off. And the same with that one. A couple of lower bits there. And I'm going to use all that top in our hand tie. Now when we condition our flowers, I also like to cut all the bottoms of the flowers, but because we're working into a shorter vase, these are all going to get cut anyway when I tie them, so I should do that bit at the end. Right, moving on, next we have our beautiful scented summer stocks here. Now these have got quite a lot of leaves to take off, nice and easy to clean, no thorns or nothing unpleasant, just strip those leaves off nice and easy. And again, like we did with the roses, leave a few leaves at the top just to help support those stems in our hand tie. So we've got 3 of those. I love the smell of stocks. Such a beautiful summer fragrance. Good vase life as well. Take those off. I'll take a couple more of those off actually. 1, 2, 3. And then our last flower is the star of the show, these peonies. Absolutely stunning, peak peony season at the moment. There are so many glorious varieties out there. This one is called Angel Cheeks, and we chose this one especially for you because it's just got that tiny blush of that creamy yellow around the outside of the pink of the centre, which I think will pick up nicely with the colour of that sort of lemony creamy coloured stalks and the centre of those daisies. So everything should blend nicely. So like with the other flowers, I'm going to take most of those bottom leaves off. Remember to leave a few on the top just to help build up your hand tie. Taking those stems off. Taking the leaves off, sorry, beg your pardon. Like so that's the peonies all ready to go. Absolutely delightful. I shall miss peonies when they go. It's such a short season and we've definitely not had as much peony action as normal this year, you know, with things being the way they are. We've not had much too many flowers to play around with, so it's really lovely to be able to work with them and work with you guys. So this is our foliage. This is called pistache. It's the foliage from the pistachio nut tree. A really great foliage, nice and robust, nice and full, so great to help build up our hand tie. I've just tidied up those lower stems a little bit there, as you can see, just to neaten those up. So we've got a few bits of this each to work with. That's pretty good, that stem, nothing to really clean up there. There's a broken stem there, so I'm just going to tidy that up and take that off. There's 3 stems of that. And there we are, that's everything conditioned, and so we're ready to move on to our hand tie. So we're ready to hand tie. First things first is what I always like to make sure I've got to hand is my binding wire, which we're using today, which you've all got in your packs. It's a great paper coated, very thin wire, but brilliant for securing those hand tie bouquets. Make sure you've got that ready to hand because you're really going to need that. I'll start that bit again. Blah 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 blah. Yada yada yada. Right, so we have all our flowers and foliage conditioned and ready to go. Before I start the bouquet, the last thing you want to make sure you have ready, apart from your scissors, which you're going to need by your side, is your binding wire. So we use this a lot for hand ties. It's a great paper covered wire, really great for securing your hand tie bouquet. Make sure you've got this ready to hand, ready to go when you finish your hand tie and you're ready to secure it. So keep that to one side, and then we're going to start building up our bouquet. So I always start with a piece of foliage. So I'm going to start with a piece of this pistache, ready to go. And everybody works differently. I always hold the flowers in my left hand and pass from my right to my left. I do a bit of moving around to give you some different angles of how I work, but whichever way you do it, whichever way you work, I will say this, just make sure you don't change halfway through your bouquet. So whichever way you pass, whichever way you're holding your flowers, make sure you keep that up throughout the entire bouquet, and it will help you to get a nice rhythm and a nice neat hand tie bouquet for you. So I'm going to start with my foliage, then I'm going to add in one of my flowers. So I'm going to start off with the stalk, I think. Now I pass behind my stem, so I've got one stem here, which is my foliage, and I'm going to take my stalk and I'm going to pass it behind my pistache. I'm going to hold that out so you can see in a diagonal. So I'm going to continue passing all my flowers in that same direction, and that will give you a nice spiral of stems. And as I always say, I always think about, you know, when you add your spaghetti into a pan of boiling water and the way it spirals around in the saucepan, that's how you want your stems to look in your bouquet, so all your stems should be going in the same direction. So I've added the stalk, and what I'm going to do now is to keep building up and make sure I've got a nice even balance of my flowers, is I'm going to turn my hand tie as I add my stem. Now I'm going to move on to a piece of alchemilla. So again, I'm going to pass it behind in that same direction and turn it around. Now I'm going to add something a bit chunkier, so I'm going to add one of these spray roses in. Really beautiful burst of colour and great for adding volume to your display. So again, on the diagonal across, behind my other stems, in that same direction, and turn. So I'll do it this way for you so you can see, so in the same direction as where you're holding it, as opposed to a mirror image. So in this way, I'm passing in the front. So I'm keeping it behind, but in this direction I'm going to be passing this way, so you can see that from the same angle which you're working at, and keep turning it around. So what I like to do is add one of everything in. So I'm going to add my last bit of the daisy in, again on the diagonal. So you've got one of everything in there in your display, and then you're ready to start all over again. So because we've got 5 pieces of alchemilla, I'm going to add another bit of that in first before I start, again on the diagonal, bringing that round. And then we're ready to start all over again, and I'm adding our second piece of foliage. So you can see here, I'm looking at my vase, and you can see where this is like a split stem here. I think there's going to be enough length there for me to split that like so. You see how I've done that? And then it's given me 2 stems of foliage. So I think that's, excuse me. I think that stem might be a bit too chunky, so I'm going to use this, taking off those lower branches, and use that as one stem. And again, passing in the same direction. And I'm looking at where my flowers are positioned, and you want to balance that out. So I can see my spray roses here, so I think I'm going to add another one in here. So I'm going to go back in again with my spray rose, again on the diagonal. So you've got a balance there, and you can see again here, where that stock's here, so I think I'm going to add another stock in here. I'm going to take another stock, again passing behind in that same direction, like that, and that's balanced out. And now I'm turning my bouquet around, peonies here, and I think I need another peony in here. So I'm going to add in a second peony, again passing behind, or if we're working this way, it's passing in front of you. So you've got that balance out either side, for a nice even display in your arrangement. And now we're ready for a second daisy. So I can see that's here, so I think that needs to go in somewhere there. So you get a nice even distribution of all your colours and all your flowers in your bouquet. So I'm going to add another piece of alchemilla mollis in, because we've got a bit more of that to work with. So I can see 1, 2, I'm going to put that piece in here I think. Again passing behind in that same diagonal direction. And you will see as you're building up in your stems, that spiral formation is really starting to develop in your hand. And you can see because we've cleared all that foliage off, you've got some nice clean stems that you're working with. So there we are, we're ready to start all over again. So I need to add my spray rose in. Now I've got 1, 2 here, so I think that next spray rose needs to be in here. So what we're looking for is, when you're working with 3s, it's a kind of a series of triangles that are nice even distributions around your bouquet. So 1, 2, and then that third one needs to go in there. So I'm going to put that in here, again keeping up that same direction and the same rhythm with passing in my stems. So you've got 1, 2, 3. Now already I can see as well, looking down, where my third stock needs to be. I think that needs to go in here. So we've got again that triangle forming, 1, 2, 3. So I'll take my last stock and add that in here. And I'm going to turn my stems again. Now I think I'm going to reach for an extra bit of foliage here, because I've got lots of flower stems here and no foliage to support. So again, passing behind on the diagonal and adding that in there. And I think that's going to build a perfect spot. Let me add in my last Angel Cheeks peony. So I'm going to add that in there. So again, we've got that 1, 2, 3 forming. So we've got one more daisy to add in and a couple of extra bits of alchemilla. I think I'm going to put that daisy in there. So again, passing behind, I'm going to tuck that in there. Now if you don't hold your hand tie too tightly, you can see what I'm doing as I go along, is you can play around with the heights of your stems. So you might decide like the pointy things, like your September or your Aster and your stocks, you might want to pull those a little bit higher so they're standing prouder in your arrangement. So if you loosen your grip a little bit, you can just play around with those heights a little bit, and it adds a nice bit of texture and interest into your bouquet if you've got some different heights going on. So just have a feel around with those. Now I've just got those last couple of bits of alchemilla, and then that last bit of foliage. Get that tangled up so I can see. I probably need a piece of alchemilla in there. So with that, when you're working with 5 stems, you've got to think about how maybe a 5 is positioned on a dice. You know, so you've got that one in the centre, so we've got that alchemilla mollis in the centre here, then the 1, 2, 3, 4 around that. So that's a good way of thinking about it when you're working in 3s and 5s. So I tend to think of the 3s as a triangle forming, and then the 5s, I think of that, I said that head on the dice. So you've got 1 in the centre, then 1, 2, 3, 4 around the outside to make up your 5 stems. So that's all our flower in, and I've got one piece of foliage left, which I'm going to use, looking around, I think I'm going to put that in here. And when you're tying your bouquet, it's nice to have a piece of foliage in front of where you're tying it, because that's going to protect the stems of your flowers a little bit when you're pulling that binding wire tight. I mean, all these flowers here are pretty tough, so there shouldn't be anything to worry about. But say if you're using softer stem flowers like tulips or daffodils, which obviously aren't around anymore this time of year, but they're a lot softer stems. You want something that's going to protect those stems when you tie it. Just have a little play around and a look down. So I'm pretty happy with that hand tie. So we're ready to tie. Now, what I do when I make my hand tie bouquets, I tend to cut my stems before I tie it, only because I find that once I've tied it and then I cut my stems, sometimes the stems will have a wiggle around a bit and it can loosen my binding wire a little bit. So I'm going to cut first and then I'm going to fasten it. So I'm going to bring my vase in to use as a gauge and hold my hand tight. So roughly where your hand is holding it, that's where you're going to tie the bouquet. So that's the bit that you really want to be sitting on the neck of your vase. So holding that in position against your vase. It's actually quite short, you need to cut. So I'm going to cut about so, and I can see here there's a couple of stems of that pistache foliage about that length anyway. So I'm going to use that as a gauge to cut all my stems. Now cut all your stems individually, there's no rush to do this. And please make sure when you're cutting your flower stems, you cut them on a 45-degree angle. Now we do this for two reasons. The first reason is to encourage a larger surface area as possible on that flower stem so it drinks as much water as it possibly can. The second reason is when your flowers are sitting in your vase, if they're cut square flat, they're going to press up against the bottom of that vase and they're not going to be able to drink because there's no open area in the bottom of the stem to be able to drink from. So cutting them at an angle just means when they're sitting in the vase, you've got that whole surface area for them to drink from. So I'll cut all my stems now. Now please be cautious when you're cutting your stems. As I always say, you can always cut a extra bit off, but you can't add a bit back on again. So if you're a bit unsure, do it steadily as you go along, a little bit at a time. So I think that's about right. Looking at it, I think I probably need to cut a little bit more off. So I'm going to take an extra centimetre off there. Be prepared for a few fine stems, so watch out. So that's all ready to go. Let's do that so they're all the same length. And now we're ready to tie. So I take my binding wire, I've got a nice long piece here to work with. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn around to show you how to do this. So where my thumb is holding across that bouquet, and I'm going to use my teeth now, so please excuse me. I'm going to take that binding wire around the bouquet. So it's around the back, and then I'm going to hold it, that first piece, I'm going to hold that under my thumb to keep it secure. Then you've got this piece here that you can wrap around your bouquet. So put it nice and tightly a couple of times round, obviously not too tight, we don't want to cut the stems in half, but a couple of times securely. And then you pull that in, and you've got your two ends of binding wire there. Now two different ways, you can either just twist those together. Obviously it's a bit like those the tags we used to use for the freezer bags. You know, twist those around together, or you can knot it if you rather. So a good few times around twisting, that should secure it. And I'm going to cut the excess off there, and then I can just push the excess bit of that binding wire back in, and now we're ready to position in our vase. Clear those stems, and go straight in the centre of the vase, and we're ready to plonk in. Just have a little tease around with it in the vase, and there we go. There you have your completed vase arrangement ready to enjoy. I hope you have a really good time this afternoon. Enjoy the sunshine, enjoy the flowers, and we look forward to seeing you all again very soon in the studio. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.